On today's episode of Wrong Side, we dive into preseason football, the Olympics wrapping up with the USA on top, an interview with commentator and Part of My Take intern Jake Marsh to hear about what's going on in his life and what he's been up to, clutch moment of the week, and of course, outside the line. In a world full of champions, we find ourselves on the wrong side.
Welcome back, listeners. Episode 21. We got a lot of great stuff cooking up for you guys. Ton of interactions happening on social media at Wrong Side Takes on Instagram and Twitter. A great interview last week with SEC Freshman Baseball Player of the Year, Gavin Grahovic at Texas A&M. Some interaction with Frank the Tank at Barstool when Michael was out at the Angels game a couple weeks ago, and a great interview with Part of My Take employee Jake Marsh coming up today. In other news, we're making it to the big leagues. Networking is everything. Michael, you ran into the Pardon My Take boys over the weekend. How was that?
Yeah, it was awesome. Last week, Monday, it's Grit Week for the Pardon My Take crew. If anybody who doesn't know who they are, Pardon My Take is a podcast, the number one podcast of sports from Barstool Sports. If you're unfamiliar with them, created by Dave Portnoy. It was awesome. They were out in LA doing Grit Week. It's a yearly tradition where basically they go through, do some great interviews with football coaches, meet people. They go to training camps. They've done other cool stuff. Spent a week out here. They had their gigantic bus out here. They had some great episodes, great time. But last Monday, they had a meet and greet at Legends Sport and Grill in Long Beach. And the whole gang was there. Hank, PMT, Big Cat, Memes, Pug, Max, Huey, the new intern. And it was pretty funny. You know, we listen to them every week, 3 times a week, and have always heard their stories. It was kind of crazy to meet them in person. I had a great time. Cool thing was Jake and I were actually wearing our Wrong Side shirts. And when we first got there, shook their hands, asked to, to meet them. Hank immediately said, "What's the wrong side? What do you guys got going on?" And we were super excited to tell him. We're like, "Let us tell you, it's a sports and life podcast we just started. We've had people on, athletes, influencers, etc. We actually have a big interview coming up next week." And they said, "Who was the interview with?" And we said, "It's going to be with Jake Marsh, your boy." They got super excited for us. They
Yeah.
told us they'd look out for us. And it was cool to have that feeling. We asked them, what would you like to ask them? If there's one question, we kind of talk a little more life than funny. And they said, ask him to do the Ray Allen tweet, which if you don't know what the Ray Allen tweet is, look that one up from Part of My Take history. But kind of awesome. Big Cat mentioned about 6-7 months ago in one of their episodes that they're famous in a way, they're celebrity podcasters. And what do I sign? A ball, a bat? I'm not an athlete. Baseball players sign a bat,
Yeah.
or baseball, football
Uh-huh.
players, football. And he said, do I sign a microphone? So I actually brought my microphone, had them all sign it. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can see this. So we have Hank and Max and Memes, Big Cat, PFT, Pug. Huey was taking pictures of us. We ribbed him a little. Moops and I ribbed him a little, obviously, for being a Michigan man. But it was a great time, a good environment. Shook their hands, talked to everybody. Saw Caitlin Walker, Brandon Walker's sister. Told her
Nice.
to say hi to her brother. And pretty fun experience. So we were pretty good. And then Tuesday came around, and Tuesday and Wednesday just worked me at work like crazy. And I texted Moops after that. Meeting them felt like 100 years ago. I hope
Yeah.
one day that Wrong Side could get to the point where it's like that. It's our job, and they have the best job in the world. We were overshadowed a little, even though they did ask about Wrong Side. They did have a cool interview with the Jags fan who got his head stuck in his
Yeah.
the Jaguar, but still awesome meet and greet. Awesome environment. A lot of fans came out to see them. Pretty cool experience. Maybe they'll open up a California branch and I can handle that, or they'll hire us and we can just both live in Chicago and have a good time. So pretty awesome. Good start to the week, I would say.
So I know PFT is short. Was he shorter than you expected in person, or how did they all shape up in person versus
In
just listening to them on the voice mostly?
Yeah, listening to them and watching them on YouTube is obviously funny. They act the exact same way. I saw the way Big Cat
Okay.
was talking to Hank and the way he was talking to Max, and it was just kind of funny. It felt like I was watching them record because he treated them the same way. It felt like just joking around, goofing around. And then PFT, I think it gets slandered. Not as short as people are too mean to PFT. He
Okay.
wasn't that short,
Okay.
normal size. Big Cat was a big dude, taller than me and Moops, and I are both 6'2", and it was awesome. A good time, and Hank was funny, and they signed our mics. We had a good time talking to them. We explained what Wrong Side was, and we said, we have Browns fans, we have Bears fans, Dallas, and even Big Cat said, he goes, "Wow, you guys are really on the wrong side." Jake was wearing
Yeah.
his Buckeyes hat. That's kind of like the same
Mhm.
design, like the upside down. And he said to Jake, "Well, at least you have the Buckeyes." And we were like, "Yeah, I guess." But again, we've
They
been on the
hurt
wrong
the
side the
most.
last.
They hurt the
And
most.
as soon as I think he said it, he was like, "Well, they've actually been on the wrong side a little more
Yeah.
lately." So, but it was still amazing experience. Good dudes, incredible experience. Fun that I got to meet them, and you listen to these guys and watch them every week. And now we're doing this, starting our own podcast. We're having Jake on for this episode, and it's just crazy that you see how much they've grown and how great and big they are. And they were just regular guys. They weren't
Yeah.
stuck up. They weren't dicks. They were awesome dudes. Grit week. They had a great success. So obviously they don't need as much plug as we do, but pardon my take. If you haven't listened to them, it's great. And they're hilarious.
And if Big Cat, PFT, Hank, you guys are listening to us, thanks. And I'm in Chicago. If you guys need help with literally anything, I will work for you for free. But that's awesome. We're flying. We're flying. A lot of great stuff coming up. The interview with Jake is great. In other news, Olympics wrapping up this week. Football has started. I am all the way in on Caleb Williams. The men's basketball team for USA takes it home. Where do you want to start with sports?
I think we start Olympics. We say it was
Okay.
closing ceremonies, so I think we should do Olympics first. So Olympics, incredible finish. I thought
Yeah.
Saturday was an incredible 2 hour span, I would say, with the 4x400 relays with men's and women's, and then the basketball game. I was actually at a breakfast place just in Villa Park doing that, and the entire restaurant was exciting. The two track races, men's and women's, everybody's screaming. It felt awesome.
Yeah.
Patriotism feels back. I didn't like seeing some people on Twitter today saying they're about to turn their patriotism off now that the Olympics
Yeah.
are over. I
Hmm.
didn't like that. But it was awesome. The women were great. Sydney McLaughlin is, I mean, she's insane. She took over. She was the second spot in that relay. And I thought it was like, oh man, better be close. And she just booked us. We dominated. Men's
Oh, yeah.
finish was awesome. The men's were awesome. I'm excited. They had Quincy, the 16-year-old. I don't know if you've seen him and
Yep.
seen any of those
Hmm.
highlights, but he was in the crowd watching. He's going to be probably the next one. So very exciting. Future of USA track was awesome. And then men's basketball against France was awesome. We kind of pulled away in the second half, but
Yep.
Steph was amazing. The first half was awesome. Wemby's gonna get his. I don't know. I hope he never gets his in the Olympics. I hope we can stay on top in the Olympics. But
Well, did you see
my,
the tweet about his Olympic career? They
no,
were like, so he was crying after the game. Like, obviously, it's still a great run for France, but it was like Wemby crying right now. He's going to come back looking like Giannis. You have 7 more attempts at this kid.
right,
Like, you're an absolute psycho. Like,
right.
he's coming.
He's
He's
20, right?
inevitable.
Only 20 years old.
20, yeah.
So 20, you think about 24, 28, 32, 37. I mean, yeah, if he wants to play like LeBron, he has 5 left. So
Yeah.
if he wants to play like LeBron, he has 5 left. And I think the NBA, for anybody who still has LeBron or Steph or the main players, we only have limited time left. As soon as they get another
Yeah.
star, I think it might be the Spurs' time to roll again because he's incredible. Gobert was funny. He actually played a lot better in the finals match, but basketball was great. The last couple races, women's today, what a finish to the women's
Yeah.
basketball game. That was crazy. Aja is incredible. She's 100% the best player in the WNBA and best player in the world. I will
Yep.
say one thing that's crazy to me is just obviously with the Avengers, this team, everyone called them the Avengers. They had the great players, Steph and KD and LeBron. One take I'll say is it was awesome to watch. I loved watching them. There was one possession specifically where LeBron had the ball, Steph cut to the hoop, passed it down. They went to block Steph. Steph dribbled out, passed it out to KD. KD switches a 3. Just pure poetry.
It's
Poetry.
beautiful.
And the
Yeah.
second thing I will say is that we have definitely, unfortunately, been caught up to in the game of basketball.
Really? I
I
mean,
think
they won
so.
by 10. I think they held the lead the entire game. Like, yeah, there was some minor scares in the pro-ams, a great comeback against Serbia in the semifinal, but the 4 teams that were there, I think were the expected teams to be there in the semifinal round, and we still won. Like, I caught up to I think
Maybe
once the
not
old
caught up
heads are
to.
gone,
Yeah,
the old heads performed. So like it's not like it was though Anthony Edwards That may be one of my most right side takes of all time. I'm all like he proved it the whole Olympics, but um the old heads accounted for most of the game. They are poetry, like you said. So I don't hate the take moving forward because most likely we're not going to see mostly like the big three in the next
Right.
Olympics. But I don't know if you can say that quite yet.
I don't know.
I don't
Maybe
think
it's
I'm in on
not
that.
fully caught up, but it is concerning. I think you had this year in the NBA draft, the number one and number two picks were both from France. You
Yeah,
have Wemby, who's great. You have Gobert, and obviously who's got maybe another Olympic or two left. Fournier has played okay for them, and they had that other kid that was drafted by the Celtics. I don't know what he did,
yeah,
but I think Rich Paul is going to have a big week for that this week. Whatever happened, I don't even think anything bad happened, but I think Rich Paul will have a scrubbing week. But I just feel like the world is it's gotten a lot better. Maybe not
yeah,
fully caught up. We still are the best. I think our young talent is still great. We have Cooper Flag. Probably in the next Olympics, we're going to have younger players. Maybe the next Olympics is when we see Tatum and Halliburton and Ant. Maybe those turn into the main couple guys because they're still very young. But I think it's a little concerning, and not concerning that I'm like, oh man, we're dead. But Serbia and
we're
France,
gonna battle.
it's basketball has been much better. And my one thing I saw on Twitter, I don't know if you agree with this, and it's a little different. Obviously, in California, it's not legalized. So when you watch an Angel game or a Laker game, etc., if it's not a nationally broadcast game, they don't show a lot of gambling ads because it's not legal in California. So
Ah,
that's showing.
mm-hmm.
But when you watch a Fox game, if you watch a ESPN game, there's going to show it everywhere. But the Olympics was pure basketball. 40 minutes. I felt
Yeah,
like there was never commercials. It was so nice to not be infiltrated with DraftKings and FanDuel, which if DraftKings and FanDuel are listening, we would still love your sponsorship. Please reach out to us. We'll 100% take it. But from a perspective of watching, I thought it was awesome. It felt like real ball. The basketball felt crisper. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the fact that they are all the elite athletes and not you don't have bums on some teams,
yeah,
but it just felt nice. It's going to be tough to go back to the NBA come October, November, and those final 2-3 minutes take 45 minutes. And this
yeah,
was pure efficiency and the five fouls and the rebounding and the goaltending and the 3 seconds in the key. There's just so many different FIBA rules that I kind of like that I don't
yeah.
want to say the NBA should adopt it, but it just felt nice to not have to wait like 3.5 hours for an NBA game.
No, I totally agree. Like all around, we're already seeing betting ads for like preseason NFL games, and I was just
Right.
like sitting around watching it. I was like, low key, maybe I could throw some money on this. I'm like, no, not going to be a degenerate today. But yeah, it's really nice not to see that. Um, the NBA, they all the jokes about LeBron and Steph going back to their bum squads when like it was pure poetry watching them together were all very funny. But I have to say, what do you think of LeBron getting the Olympics MVP over Steph?
So I actually agree with it in a way because I thought originally that tournament MVP was based on the medal rounds. A couple weeks ago I
Okay.
thought it was based on the medal rounds because if that was the case, I think Steph was the MVP of the tournament, 100%. But
Yeah.
up until that semifinal game against Serbia, everyone kept saying, we're waiting for the Steph Curry game. We're waiting for the Steph Curry. Steph did not shoot well for the whole group stage and the first
Yep.
quarterfinal. He was not great. He had 10, 15 points a game, made a three or so, but he wasn't playing that well. And I was kind of concerned, if we're going to win, he's going to have to get going. And Katie was going to have to get going. And both of them obviously took the next step the rest of the Olympics, along with Devin Booker, who I think underrated player, didn't get as much love as the
Underrated
big
player
three,
so
but had a
hard.
great win.
Yeah.
Also, Drew Holiday, one of my new favorite players, plays defense, plays hard, played a really good role. But
Yeah.
I think LeBron was worthy. He was most consistent. He had a triple double. He was very consistent the entire Olympics. So I'm okay with that. I'm glad they gave it to him and not like Jokic or they gave it to somebody from a different country that just didn't
Oh yeah.
win.
No way.
Obviously should
Hmm.
go to a champion team, but I'm okay with it being LeBron because it's over the entire tournament, not just the medal round.
Yeah, that's fair. Even Anthony Edwards was like, my boy. He was talking about Steph Curry. He's like, my boy just showed up on Tuesday. Like like basically just arrived here in the medal rounds, which is very
Right.
true. But when he did, like, were he even with LeBron playing the way he did, and obviously like hindsight's 2020, but we don't win either of those medal games without Steph. So I think
No,
the
we
way he
don't. We
showed up in
don't.
those big moments, and like you said, if it was just based on those rounds, he definitely would have gotten it. But overall, just an amazing Olympics. We ended up tying in total gold medals with China, but I believe we won based on the silver medal tiebreaker.
Correct.
Crushed everybody in total medals overall. The Olympics were cool. I think one benefit that I've seen it of working from home most of the time is got to have the Olympics on a lot during the workday. So got to experience a lot of different and cool sports that I otherwise would not have. USA, these colors don't run, baby. We champions once again. So going to be great. Couple more weeks until football starts, but
I think it was a perfect, like, we obviously have a couple more preseason weeks left before college starts and the NFL starts, but
mhm.
it was like the perfect little the second week of the Olympics felt like the perfect little end to just like push
Yeah,
us over this last hump. Give me a little more motivation. Like LeBron and Steph winning a gold, sure. The men's track winning the relay, sure. The women's track winning relay, sure. The Serbia game, sure. Women's basketball winning, sure. I mean, there was so much good stuff. It felt awesome. I was only kind of around the environment of other people outside of my family a couple times watching events, and it was
yeah,
awesome. I think it's cool when everyone roots together. I think I've said it before on one of the episodes when I was watching soccer that as much as I'm not the biggest soccer fan, I like watching the Euros and the World Cup, but that environment's crazy. In America, we have Bears fans, we have Cowboys fans. No one's really rooting for other teams other than, oh, maybe I like that player, or, oh, Justin Fields went to
yeah,
Ohio State. I'm going to root for him when he's on the Bears or the Steelers, etc. But I don't think you see that really ever in the US. So it's kind of nice to come together and all root for one team versus root for others. And I think that's cool
yeah.
because like soccer is just so hard. Like everyone goes so hard for their team and their city. And, Wrexham, for example, like the TV show, Wrexham's just awesome. Like the whole city bleeds that color and they want them to win. It was awesome. Good experience. But LA 28's next. Come with a home state. Gotta be interesting for sure.
Yeah, but you better have a couch open for me. I don't know what I'm going to go to. These events are going to be expensive. As a United States going to be basically a tourist going to LA. I'm very excited about it. I know you said as like a homer there, you're not excited about it. So the no car Olympics are being discussed already as a home game for you. What do you think right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be something. It was here in '84, or no, that's not right. Yeah, '84.
Somewhere
The
around there, yeah.
84 Olympics was when it was here. And my mom and dad said when they were here, and they were obviously living in California, they said it was a mess. My mom said she
Yeah.
remembers not being able to see her grandma a lot because her grandma lived in LA. They never went and saw her for those 2, 3 weeks,
Mm.
and there were some tough times getting to work, busy traffic, etc. The Associated Press came out with an article basically talking about it with the Olympic Committee of LA and the people that were in charge of LA, saying they're going to have a no car games. They're going to try to enhance the public transportation. I don't know if you're familiar with public transportation in California, especially Los Angeles. It's
No.
actually fucking miserable. So I don't know how they better get to fucking work because it's going to need a lot of work because public transportation is horrible. And I don't know how you're going to
Mhm.
get around everywhere. I don't think that'll stay, but it'll be interesting to see. Spread out all of kind of SoCal, kind of weird. There's some Long Beach stuff. I saw women's softball is actually going to be in Oklahoma City, and there's going to be another event in
Oh,
Oklahoma City that's outside, which is kind of
interesting.
weird. Which I don't know if people
Mhm.
know this, but basketball, for example, it was in Paris the Olympics, but basketball was actually 4 hours away from the village, from the Eiffel Tower, from
Yeah.
the main area, so it wasn't really in Paris. So spread out, that's normal. And my one hope, though, is that Rob Manfred, if you're listening to this, or any of the 30 owners, please, please give a longer All-Star break, cancel the All-Star game that year. I would love for the MLB players to get a chance. I know we have the World Baseball Classic, but it's a lot different for a World Baseball Classic versus an Olympic gold medal. And I think it'd be awesome to see the stars out there. That's how you grow the game. You see how much the game grows for basketball with Jokic in Serbia and other countries, France, Germany, US. And I think that's awesome. If you want to keep growing the game, get your stars out there, get them on the biggest stage. There's nothing, in my opinion, bigger than a gold medal for your country. And I think the MLB would be dumb to not send their guys.
I love that. It's a great take.
But so Olympics coming to LA. We'll see. Hopefully tickets aren't expensive. I would love to see a couple things, but I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to be around that many people and figure out with people having to coordinate around LA. But Olympics are wrapped up. Closing ceremonies were today. US on top. And now, like we said, a great bridge to football. Football has started. Preseason is underway for most teams. Obviously, we had Texans Bears for the Hall of Fame game, but it was kind of a tease, I felt like. But after
Too
that, we
much
had
of a tease for sure.
too much of a tease, but Thursday to Sunday was football every single day. It was nice. We're almost there. I can taste that first game. What were your thoughts? Bears, other teams, rookies. What were your thoughts?
Michael Penix looks amazing. That was my first takeaway from the weekend.
Okay.
I don't remember what his actual stat line is, but he had a couple good looking throws downfield, but that was mostly a joke. He looked pretty good from what we started, but he was not the story of the weekend. Jaden Daniels looked really good in his debut, and most importantly, Caleb Williams has arrived. I am very nervous about the online reaction from the fans with how he performed, but he was as advertised. He was shifty outside of the pocket, really poised in the pocket. The numbers are a little deceiving. I believe he ended with 95 passing yards, 42 of which came from a screen pass, but it was a dope screen pass. So pretty much immediate pressure. DeAndre Swift was like right in the middle, a weird underhand shovel from Caleb at the perfect time in the perfect spot. DeAndre Swift also looks as advertised, looks great, gets out, runs 42 yards for the screen. Caleb played one quarter, at a couple drives that ended in field goals, but he's got a cannon. He looks good. He looks confident. I'm very, very, very excited so far, but I'm not overreacting.
Yeah,
That was my
it's
biggest, yeah.
tough to do that. Obviously, there's some starters playing, some starters out. It's tough to get excited, but when you have a quarterback that looks like that, it's very exciting. Everyone, even Josh Allen got to play this weekend. Jordan Love played this weekend. You had some of the regular guys out there along with the
Mhm.
rookies. Bo Nix played well. I thought he looked actually
Yes.
well. It's good to play when you're 35 years old. I think that helps.
I trust
Um,
Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix could surprise some people.
Someone said today, loser of the weekend, I will say, is Trey Lance. I thought he was not good for the Cowboys. I watched some of that game. He had 25 completions for 188 yards, which is just an absurd stat in my opinion. 41
Yeah.
attempts, and then they said they're like, well, you never know with Trey Lance. He might still get going. He's the same age as rookie Bo Nix, Trey Lance. He's been in the league a couple of years
Wow.
now, so
Wow.
kind of insane to see, but very exciting. I'm excited. I think there's definitely you're seeing position battles here and there. Cowboys, for myself, I will say, didn't really play that many guys. Mozzie Smith was basically the main returner. I would say he was a rookie last year from Michigan. He played this year. He was really the main, like, only defensive guy. We had a lot of rookies play today, but and Aubrey, our kicker, Cooper Rush had a good drive. But other than that, Cowboys, nothing really going on. We'll get into it a little later with Jerry and CD and that whole
Okay.
situation. But
Mhm.
I will say that it's gonna be fun. Football is so close. Neighbors I saw got hurt his foot. I don't know how
Yep.
long he's out for. Scary. Did you see
Said minor.
Hollywood
I thought they said
Hollywood
it was a
Brown?
minor injury.
It was minor. It was minor ankle sprain. But did you see Hollywood Brown? Looked
On
scary.
Twitter? No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
he had like some sort of condition where got rushed to the hospital yesterday. It was like a chest. I think it was a chest issue,
Oh,
and they
damn.
said I think it was maybe Tyreek. They said someone has had this condition before and they missed 4 weeks. So maybe he'll be out maybe the first week or two of the season. But McCaffrey, he's out with a calf strain. I'm
Yeah.
very anti, I've had one already, but I'm very anti early fantasy football drafts. I like doing them maybe right before that Thursday night football game opener because I don't want anybody hurt. But
Yeah.
we're getting close. We're so close. I need it bad. We keep repeating it, but it's just so nice that we had Olympics for a couple of weeks because usually the dog days are summer. Like Angels suck, so it's not like I'm like super tied in with them. I love watching
Cubs in the
baseball,
hunt. Cubs
but
in the hunt.
yeah, Cubs are in the hunt, so that helps. Like there's some like extra interest, but luckily I have fantasy baseball at least. One of my teams is in the playoffs, so that's gonna be going well. But other than that, I think football. One story I did see especially for football, is just seeing the rookies help. I don't know why, but it seems like everyone's kind of got their own perceived notions. It's so tough, in my opinion, preseason football. You can't judge anything.
Oh, yeah. No, it's all. I mean, now we have people comparing training camp touchdown interception
Right.
ratios on Twitter. So I hate every bit of that.
Yeah. So, and like we talked about last week, like when did training camp video become like the to end all
Yeah.
be all? Like, when did that start? And it's just so dumb, in my opinion, because it's like even though I hate him, I'm not a fan of him. But JJ McCarthy obviously throws a pick, and that was all over Twitter. But then he actually puts together two nice drives, unfortunately. So like he throws a
Through pick,
touchdown,
don't
and
care.
he threw well. So there's just like so much, and like we said last week, you can get them all out, get them all out.
Yep.
I will say the backups for the Cowboys defense, Mike Zimmer had them working 4 picks today. Stetson Bennett, get ready to learn CFL, buddy, and that was nice. But that was really all I had from my preseason notes. I'm trying to think of what else happened, any other big rookies or anything, but Jordan Love had a great spiral touchdown, I think 45, 60
Yep.
yards. I don't know even know who won that game against the Browns, but obviously Browns fans were locked in for that. Jameis,
Hmm.
famous Jameis, he was out there playing, giving his pregame speech. I think he'll be great. I know Moops and Moose, they believe that the season's already over, but I think it's going to go pretty well for them. I'm willing to say right now, I think the Browns beat the Cowboys week 1. That might be a
Ooh.
pre-week 1 take, but that might.
Preemptive wrong side. for you and the Browns fans. Moose, actually, him and I were at the Cubs Phillies games a couple months ago, and we went to the DraftKings Sportsbook connected to Wrigley, and he threw a 3-leg parlay for the Cubs Phillies game, and then Browns money line week 1. So we'll see how that pans out for him.
Yeah, definitely. It's coming his way for Moose. But football wrapped up for the week. Olympics closing ceremonies. Now, though, we're going to kick it to one of our biggest interviews yet. Jake Marsh, ex Pardon My Take intern, current broadcaster for PGA and many other events. Very excited for you guys to hear this interview. Mr. Positions, best in the office. Now we're going to kick it to Jake Marsh. Here we go. Joining us now live in studio, the one and only Jake Marsh, Mr. Positions, best in the office, broadcaster himself, ex Pardon My Take intern and employee for Barstool Sports, currently still working for them, just getting back from a beautiful trip to Paris for the Olympics. Jake, thank you for joining us today in studio.
Thank you guys for having me. That was an awesome intro. That's a lot. There's a lot of titles there. I guess some for better, some for worse, but that was an honor. Thank you guys.
Of course. Thanks again for hopping in. Before we dive straight into our questions, want to talk Paris. What were the highlights? What was the best thing you saw? How was the trip?
Yeah, definitely. It all came together in the last 10 days. My brother had been working there. His production company put him out there for the entire Olympics, and he was at an Airbnb. He had an air mattress. So I didn't have to pay for a place to stay. So that was a big kind of pro for making the decision to go out there. So it was basically just uh, flights and event tickets and food, obviously. But I'm so glad I did. It all, like I said, 10 days ago, it wasn't even on the radar. My mom was the one who pushed me. She's like, just do it. Like, why not? So I did it. It was a lot of fun. I crammed in 6 events in 3 days. It was a lot of running around, but no regrets. I tweeted out my rankings of the experiences. Beach volleyball next to the Eiffel Tower was one of the coolest sporting events I've ever been to. And
Yeah.
I'm not really a huge volleyball guy. I've called a few games in college. Obviously, it's not the sports that we cover regularly here in America, but between that setting and just how they got the fans involved, it was so cool. Like you're staring at a gold medal match and you look to your left and it's the Eiffel Tower. That's something that has never been done before and probably will never be done before again. So that was so cool. And then going to a bunch of events where the USA was playing, specifically the women's soccer gold medal game. That was really cool. Not a huge
Yeah.
soccer guy either. So I went to basketball, but for me, I put basketball at the bottom of my list because I go to basketball games all the time. So it wasn't a different experience. Um, but some of those niche sports that I don't really uh, give a lot of my attention to regularly, it was an eye opening and really cool experience.
Awesome. Yeah, it looked awesome. All the events were amazing. Olympics wrapping up now and diving into more of our regularly scheduled agenda. So like we talked about before recording, Michael and I, we both got business degrees. We took what a lot of people call the normal path, moved home after college, and here we are. You took a bit of a different path going into broadcasting. That's a pretty tough industry to get into. A lot of the time it's who you know, it's having some sort of connection, family or otherwise. So going all the way back to the beginning, how did you choose to go into broadcasting? It's a high barriers to entry to get into, and what was that decision like?
Yeah, definitely. I knew I always wanted to work in sports. So my sports journalism kind of career, I guess you could say, was in high school. I did the high school newspaper. So I started off as a writer. I was a sports editor. I traveled with some of our teams. But then when I graduated high school, I wanted to make the jump to on camera and broadcasting, and play by play was something that I hadn't really given a shot before entering college. And I obviously, as anyone else does, looked up where the best places to go were for that industry. And Syracuse was the best, one of, if
Oh
not
yeah.
the best, because of the established alumni base and the facilities and just the history and tradition of it. It's kind of like when you're looking at football schools. If you want to go play football, you go to Alabama or something like that. Like if you want to be a broadcaster, you go to Syracuse. So obviously it was out of my comfort zone leaving Florida. A lot of my friends ended up staying in state, but I knew what I wanted and I made the jump, and I don't regret a thing. It was definitely different. I had a much different college experience than all of my friends and family, but with where I'm at right now, I couldn't be happier.
That's great to hear. You had a great career at Syracuse, doing a lot of play-by-play, working at the radio stations. You were very involved. Obviously, then working for Vermont, MLB Network, NHL, doing stuff for them. Like Joey said, it is a tough barrier to entry. You were working hard. You had different experience. There's got to be some highs and lows, obviously. But what was one point where you thought, man, this is getting tough? And how did you keep trekking on when there was a tough part in your career or you didn't get a job you'd like? Did that happen? How did you battle that part of adversity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a scary feeling. Luckily, a lot of my friends were in the same boat for my industry, but you graduate college and you don't have a job. It's like, what's next? You don't know where you're going, you don't know where you're going to live, you don't know what you're going to be doing, because for your entire life it's preschool, elementary school, middle school, high school, college. That's the first 18 years of your life with the big picture in mind are planned out, right? Of where you're going to
Yeah.
be and what you're going to be doing. But after that, like a lot of my accounting or finance friends, they get a job at a 9 to 5 job in a big city. But for broadcasting, it's so much different. It's a lot of patience. And I'd be lying if I didn't say there's a lot of luck. There's a ton of luck in this business. The reason I got with Part of My Take was I got lucky. Obviously, I'm proud of what I bring to the table, and it's a lot more than just luck, but there is a huge amount of luck involved. If Hank didn't answer my email, and I'm sure we'll get into this story, but with how I started at PMT, if he didn't answer my email about internship applications 5 years ago, I'm not sitting here right now.
Yeah.
So graduating without a job was scary, but you just have to stay as positive as possible and keep reaching out to all those connections you made. Like when you pick Syracuse, you knew you'd be able to use that alumni base to try to help you. And luckily, I landed, like you said, at Vermont a few months later for my first gig out of school.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's very interesting. Like you said, like we're more in the 9 to 5. Like we know we got work tomorrow. We know we got work the next day. In the broadcasting business, sometimes I assume you got to take other jobs. You're driving a couple hours to do some of these games. So what's kind of a more obscure sport that you've called kind of throughout your career? Have you become interested in any other sports just because you had to call a random game? Kind of similar to your Olympic conversation, those niche sports that maybe you don't usually think of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a decent slash good amount of experience in 5, I guess you could say, mainstream sports: football, basketball, golf, lacrosse, and hockey. I think a lot of Americans watch those sports pretty regularly. But Barstool has given me the chance to do some interesting things, such as Jenga, such as table tennis, such as cornhole. We don't do that anymore, but Stool Streams, it was called. That's kind of how I started. When I started full time, it was a COVID thing. There were not really any sports going on, so that was cool.
Mhm.
Mini golf too. Mini golf was one of my favorite things to do when it came to broadcasting at Barstool. Nick Turaney is one of the funniest guys that I've ever met, and I think a lot of people would agree with that for people that have met him. So those are some of the niche things that I've gotten to do that I never really thought my career would go in that direction.
I like what you're saying about the calling games with Nicky. He's great. Nick Trainey's so funny. I think him and KB on Innis are like one of the best podcasts, and they're so great. On the Yak as well. Definitely
Yeah.
was interesting seeing him and Jeff D. Lowe doing the summer games versus you being out there. That's usually your spot. You were just calling mini golf a couple months ago, so kind of crazy
Yeah.
that now there's already a sub in there for you. But like you said, pursued Barstool. Hank answered your email, which was an incredible honor, and moved on. And now you're here 5 years later. Obviously that got you to this point, and you mentioned it on the PMT episode when you announced you were leaving, but what drove you officially to look outside of Barstool? How did you know you were ready to move on? And then along with that, how difficult was it to leave the spot you had? You mentioned in your resume, you mentioned how great the honor is, meeting celebrities and all-stars and movie stars, and you've had such good life. How hard was it to leave? And then, like I said, how tough was it to potentially leave and get to another spot and accept you're done at Barstool?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very tough to process, but luckily, I said this in my farewell episode. It didn't really come around quickly. Big Cat and PFT and I, we had sat down a few times in the spring, knowing that we had kind of an end date in June. So it gave me some time while the public didn't necessarily know it. It gave me time to process. All right, I should start reaching out to other connections and see what's out there, because I know this is coming to an end. And as sad as it was, like I said in that final show, it felt like the right time for a few reasons. One, like I said, I've always had this goal to call games for a big network one day. And uh, fortunately, I had the chance to do that at Barstool for a little bit, for a few years. We had a couple of bowl games. We had some college basketball, golf, hockey. But unfortunately, that's not on the company's radar anymore. They're not going to be doing any of that anymore. So I had to really think about, all right, for my career, if I want to keep moving up the ladder, as they say, how much more could I get out of this? And unfortunately, as comfortable and as much fun as I was having, I had to think about the long term. And I felt like, and the guys agreed, they felt like beginning of the summer was the right time to try to put myself out there. So by the time we get to the fall, which is coming up in a few weeks, um, I can set myself up in the best position possible for opportunities in those sports that I mentioned earlier. With football, hopefully I'll get some opportunities, college basketball. But if I did this in December, say, it's already, everything's in
Yeah.
full steam ahead, so it would be much more difficult. So I think everything combined with how I was feeling and how they were feeling, it felt like the right time. And as hard as it was, and I still listen to the show because I love those guys. And as you mentioned, I'm still semi working for them remotely a little bit, but it's hard. But I think in a few years, I'll look back and hopefully say it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean that's a super tough spot to be in. We actually talked a couple episodes ago. We're both in our first job, first couple of years of that. Like, how do you know when the right time to leave is, whether you're comfortable or not comfortable? So it's interesting to hear from one of the hottest companies in the country right now that you still got to have those conversations with yourself and really look at long term. Maybe even though it is the best job ever, it looks like the best time ever. Like, those conversations are still real. You still got to take care of yourself long term at the end of the day. So real props to you. I can imagine how difficult that must be. Going back to kind of more the beginning of your career at Barstool, what was the most surprising thing when you first got that spot? Obviously, from the outside looking in, it looks like all fun and games all the time. And another thing, how did you deal with the shock factor of meeting stars? Like we said, you're our first white whale. This is an amazing opportunity for us. How was that when you first stepped into Barstool?
Thank you. That's a major honor being in the white whale category. If I'm in the white whale category, you guys got to change your standards. Um,
Okay.
no, but seriously, yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience, to be completely transparent. I wasn't the biggest stoolie before getting the gig with PMT. Obviously, I was a PMT fan. That's how I heard of the internship opening. But uh, the time I sent out my first tweet, it was so overwhelming seeing, just like on my personal account, if I get more than 50 likes on a tweet, it's a big deal. And here I had to mute Twitter notifications immediately because my phone was going to explode. It was just very, very overwhelming. But like I said on that last show, um, it taught me how to grow thick skin in terms of online and social media. It provided obviously a great opportunity, but as you guys know, social media can be negative sometimes,
Yeah.
and it's very easy for people to say negative things. Mostly, I'd say 99% of the negative things said were behind burner accounts, because that's just what the internet is.
Yep.
But I remember one of the first few days I was there, Big Cat said, the only opinions that matter are the one in this room. Don't worry about what other people are saying. So uh, it taught me how to grow thick skin, and that was something I didn't really expect to have to do going in. But now I feel like I'm ready for anything that comes my way in this business.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think how you said the burner accounts and social media, I think for us, especially like we kind of mentioned, we're in that still small growth phase. We have not thousands and thousands of followers. We have a small following, and we've had a couple hit tweets where they get some traction, a couple thousand views, 20 likes. And to us, that's a big deal because we're trying this. And like you said, the only opinions that matter in this room, Joey and I have such a great team of writers and help people that work on our social media and website, and we work hard. It's tough to also work 9 to 5 and have a million ideas flowing through your head. And we still try to bring a great product. It might not be the number one sports podcast in the world. It might not be the number 20th sports podcast in the world, but we're bringing together people that care about what they do, and we're showing our passion. And I think you guys, especially yourself, with everything you've done, and pardon my take, the passion is there, and that's how you show it's a great product. Passion shows dedication, it shows hard work, it shows that you truly do care about what you're putting out there.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one of a lot of things that I learned from Big Cat and PFT is people think they just show up and start talking, put on the headset. No, it's a lot more than that. And just developing the relationships with all of them is something that I just commend them for.
I said to Joey after our first episode, we stayed up, we recorded, we were editing. We didn't have a ton of editing experience. We were kind of learning a couple months before we started. And I said after, I was like, I've listened to a lot of Pardon My Take. I've listened to a lot of other type of podcasts. Respect to Max, respect to Jake, respect to Memes and Pug, like those kind of guys where those guys are up so late and there's a team of them versus us, just us two working. And I saw how tough it was just to edit and get everything out in a timely manner. And I don't think enough people realize that. They just have their laughs 3 times a week. And it's like tough to not see that side of it. So it is a big thing to commend. Looking at the show, looking at your experience, Joey and I talked about this, and it was a topic a couple weeks ago on Pardon My Take, but we were curious for you. How many of your friends listen to the show? Did they listen when you were on there? Did they rib you about anything? What was your kind of like parents' point of view? Obviously, you had your moments where Big Cat and PFT would rib you and make some jokes, maybe some inappropriate, some appropriate. But what was your friends and your like inner circle like? Did they listen? How was that? And what did they think of everything?
Yeah, definitely. First off, you're right. Shout out the production guys, Max, Memes, Pug, and Shane. You put me in that category with them, but I didn't pull all-nighters like they did. They pulled near all-nighters 3 times a week. So they deserve a shout out every time they get brought up because that's a tough job. But they're awesome. But to your question, yeah, a lot of my friends when I first got the gig, they couldn't believe it. My mom and dad were like, "What's Pardon My Take?" So I had some explaining to do, and as any parents would be, those negative burner accounts they were not fans of, to say the least. But I think any parent would have the same reaction. But I think it was very cool for my friends and family to experience this kind of with me because they knew me before and they knew me during, and they'll obviously be with me after. So the ones who had listened to the show beforehand, it meant a lot to them, I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, right now we get a lot of attention from our moms. Our moms are probably our most dedicated listeners or inner circle. So it's funny to see. I know I got a lot of people that are going to be listening to this episode and seeing that circle expand. And we'll be hanging out with our friends and they'll just like bring up something that we said on the show. And I was like, wait, I didn't tell you that. And they're like, no, like you have an online presence, dude. The internet is forever. They know what we say. So it's always interesting to see how the podcasting and the social media of it all kind of translates to real life. But like you said, your friends and inner circle will be with you after. Do you have anything big coming up? What's your kind of target going on lately? Dream event to call maybe in the next year? Anything that you got lined up right now?
Yeah, definitely. Just for reference, when is this going to air so I can talk in future past tense?
It's going to air Wednesday. It'll be
This
aired
Wednesday?
this Wednesday.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's perfect because this week I'm doing another PGA Tour event. It's the FedEx St. Jude Championship, the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. So only the top 70 players are in it. So it's all the big names. I'm going to be on the featured group feed on ESPN Plus on PGA Tour Live. We don't get our assignments until tomorrow because that's when the tee times are announced. But I'd be lying if I didn't say fingers crossed for Max Homa.
Oh yeah.
He's my guy, obviously. Yeah. And I got to call his Wells Fargo round, and he made a 213-yard eagle on the first hole, and I got to call it, which was one of the coolest things that I've ever done in broadcasting because it's rare that you're calling an event where you know someone personally, and Max is the best. And every time I've interacted with him, it's been nothing but positive. So yeah, that's going to be the tournament's going to be in Memphis, but for all these events, I'm actually at the studios in Jacksonville. So I can drive up, which is nice. About a 4-hour drive on Wednesday. So I'll have that. And then this was announced a couple of weeks ago, another golf event. It's called the Creator Classic. It's going to be on the PGA Tour Live YouTube, PGA Tour YouTube. It's going to be on Peacock, ESPN Plus, and basically it's going to be 16 big name golf content creators playing 9 holes at Eastlake in Atlanta the day before the Tour Championship, and they're going to be playing the back 9 of the Tour Championship from those
Awesome.
tees. I believe from those tees, maybe one up, but either way, it's going to be awesome. So there's Dude Perfect in there, so I got to throw in a little Bro Sweet at some point. uh, uh, good Bob Does Sports. There's a whole list of people, and myself, Mark Immelman, and we have 3 great on-course reporters that are going to be on site. I'll again be in Jacksonville for that. So I have that. And then nothing locked up just yet for football or basketball, but I've had some conversations. They seem to be positive, but like I said earlier, it's a lot of luck, a lot of right place, right time, and being patient. So just fingers crossed that I get a call the next few weeks. But I do have some stuff locked in on my calendar right now, which is exciting.
Seems like a good couple weeks, good stuff coming up. Who has been someone in this industry, whether you've called a game or a golf tournament with them, that's kind of given you some great advice? Someone that maybe you didn't look up to your entire life, thinking the top guys that you've watched when you were younger, but someone you worked with and they were just a class act, someone you cared about, someone who's given you some great advice throughout your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been fortunate to work with some very talented individuals throughout my career, whether it's during my time as a student at Syracuse when we were paired up, or during my time as a professional. But there's so many to name. I don't want to single out one broadcast partner that I've had, but I will say someone who's helped me navigate the field with advice and dealing with the patients and things like that is actually a part of my Take recurring guest, Field Yates. I've become close with him over the last few years, and he's someone I think who we both have a lot of similarities. We're both nerdy in our own sense. Sorry, Field, if you're listening and you're offended by that, but I think we'll agree with it. We're both nerds. But I think he's given me awesome advice about just building relationships with people behind the scenes and how to present yourself and the best way to approach certain conversations. And I'll tell you what, guys, like building relationships, I'd say is more important than how you are on the air and how you treat people. And I think obviously you need to have talent to get these opportunities, but I think how you are as a person, they always talk about on PMT, like better person that he is basketball player, whatever, things like that. But in this case, like you need to be a better person than you are a broadcaster, because you're not going to get your shot unless you have both. So I think he's told me just some great advice about how to navigate through. And as I'm trying to break in here with one of these networks soon.
Yeah, that's super important and something that we've been talking about a lot too. Like you said, you got to work a ton on this networking stuff. Thankfully, you've had Barstool open up a ton of doors for you in that regard. We're in the cold call stages. We're door-to-door salesmen, firing off cold emails of anyone we can find. So any advice for us, or just in general, some tips and tricks that you've been using to try and get in touch with these big networks lately, as far as networking goes, how to communicate effectively? What's your 1 or 2 tips or tricks that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the same boat as you guys. I've sent a lot of cold calls and cold emails since I left Part of My Take. Obviously, it can be an uncomfortable position to be in, but it can also be productive. I mean, think about how I got the PMT job. Sent the email. What's the worst that happens? As long as you're respectful and not over the top and annoying, and like say you send an email, you're not going to send a follow up the next day. You wait a week or two, so you're not blowing up their inbox. And again, this is something I still am battling with, and I still don't fully know what the correct way, if there is even a correct way, is the balance between being persistent and aggressive versus being annoying. And that's something I think no matter what business you're in, it's a challenge. And like I said, like we joked, I don't know if it was on the air or not, but not doing the Ray Allen tweet, things like that. I took my reputation, and still do take my reputation, so seriously, so that when I'm having these conversations, I don't have to be paranoid about certain things, so that when I do approach these people out of nowhere, they can look me up and not find anything negative in a very competitive industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the social media side obviously has changed. I would think 25, 30 years ago, going for these jobs sure is probably a little different. With no email, you're calling or sending in applications. But we've seen so many people, celebrities, non-celebrities, regular people, their lives are ruined with one bad tweet, with one stupid tweet, and you see how much that affects them. And like you said, it's kind of being the right person, being a good person. Don't put yourself in a situation to harm yourself, I think is a good way to look at it. And like not making sure that when someone comes and asks you something that you don't have to defend yourself for anything you say.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, and people have asked me this before about just the ties to Barstool and Part of My Take. And obviously, some people have their opinions on the company and the show.
Yeah.
But what I would tell them is just look at me as the individual. And if you're going to dock me for that, obviously, I can't change how people view me, but I don't regret making this leap. Obviously, it was a very unconventional move for me. And, uh, the industry I'm in. Really none of my friends from broadcasting or college really went on this path, but I can confidently say I have no regrets and I'm proud of what I did there. But now, like we said, it's time to make that jump back into the more traditional side of things and take all those connections and lessons I've learned here the last 5 years and hopefully parlay it into something big on the broadcasting side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. I think that's a perfect way of looking at it and stuff like that. We have a couple more questions, couple more fun questions for you. Not as intense, but our first fun question in the season of you not getting to do it since you're there. Who is your Mount Rushmore of broadcasters you've watched growing up?
Wow, you guys are really putting me on the spot here.
Yeah, well, it's the season. We had to ask. We
I
had
know,
to
I
ask.
know. The fact that this is similar to when last year, uh, they did. I don't know why they did this. They did part of my take guests, recurring guests.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just a disaster waiting to happen. Like, there's only 12 choices, and
Yeah, right.
they have had hundreds of guests. That it's not going to end well no matter what. So
Right.
you guys are putting me in the same spot here. Wow. Broadcasters, Mount Rushmore. This is tough. I'd say based on his versatility, Mike Tirico.
Okay.
He just finished the Olympics. He's done every
He was
sport you
great.
can think
Yeah.
of. So I think just based off of that, and that's something that I've really tried to focus on these last few years, is not being a one trick pony and not tying myself down to one sport, so that if I get the call to call something, I'm ready for it. And I've done it before. And like I said, Barstool's given me that opportunity to do so many things. I don't know if there's a professional mini golf league out there, but if there is, or Jenga, I have tape to give.
Yep.
It wouldn't be new for me. So I put him on there. Oh, a little biased because he's been on the show a few times, but Joe Buck is so good, and I think
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
one of those
He's
guys that
incredible.
for some reason the public didn't like at first, but then part of my take, as Big Con PFT do, they do such a good job of, I guess, making guests likable is what a lot of feedback I've seen about a lot of guests. So, I mean, Joe Buck, his voice is so good, obviously, and he's been on the call for some amazing events. I know he doesn't do baseball anymore, but he's done all the World Series, Super Bowls, 28-3.
Cubs fans
His
really didn't like him for a while. Really
Yeah,
didn't like
but
him for a
then he
while.
won it.
Yep.
his David Freese call when he hits the walk off in 2011. We'll see you tomorrow night. I think is one of the best calls, not only because of the moment, which was great,
Yeah,
but his dad actually made the call as well
right.
when he was calling. So the symbolic meaning of him doing that one, I thought was so incredible. So that is a good call. I agree. I think he got a lot of unwarranted
Yeah.
hate. Maybe he called some bad games, but like you said, they do such a good job, likable. Like we mentioned before, we both went to Ohio State, and we had one of our friends who we graduated with say, God damn it, that Harbaugh interview was really good. I really hate that I like that
Yeah,
interview. I really
exactly.
hated that I like that interview. So I could see what you mean there.
Yeah, so that I think that's one of the biggest things that Big Cat and PFT always said was kind of not to pat themselves on the back, but knowing that they did things right, is having a guest on for the first time and the guest coming back and saying they enjoyed it and they want to come back on. I think that's the biggest compliment that they say they can receive, which totally makes sense. Is obviously there's so many media platforms out there, and these guys and girls are doing interviews all the time, but when they go on Part of My Take, it's guaranteed to be something different than what they're used to hearing. And I think that's what
Yeah.
separates them from everything else. But anyways, so that's two. Another one, I have to go back to my alma mater. Iron Eagle is tremendous. I think his energy, versatility, and I think something that he has that helps make him stand out is he can be funny on the air too. Is I feel like anytime it's Iron Eagle and whoever he's with, it's guaranteed to be comedy, but also professional and exciting. And I was fortunate to go to school with his son Noah, who just finished doing Olympic
Incredible.
basketball.
He was incredible.
He's so good. He's so good. And obviously, people can say what they want about the family and that stuff, but Noah deserves this opportunity. He's been unbelievable. Him and D Wade were so good. And Noah, I think, takes a lot of what his dad brought down. And I've had so many people reach out to me saying, oh my God, he sounds just like his dad. Not just the way he sounds, but just the way he approaches himself on the air. And that's kind of a tone or trend that I'm trying to follow as well, is having fun with it. Because at the end of the day, you're doing sports. It's supposed to be fun. So yeah, it was great going to school with Noah, and I caught up with him in Paris, and I'm happy and proud of him for everything he's done. But Ian's so good, and I'm glad that he got to not fill in. He got to move up to the Final Four with Jim Nantz stepping back from college basketball, so this was his first Final Four, and yeah, so he'd be on there. Now there's only one more spot, so this is not fun. So right now, like, Tarico, Buck,
Buck, and Iron Eagle. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I have a really biased one, but I also am not a ball knower in terms of broadcasting. But mine would be Gus Johnson. As a Buckeyes fan,
yeah,
he's just electric in everything he does. But that's clearly a biased take there.
Okay, I can stay in the. Oh man. Will there be an honorable mention spot?
Sure, we'll give you one honorable.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll give you a talk. They always give a couple after they're done and what they missed, so we'll give you an honorable mention spot.
Okay, I have to go Jim Nantz for my fourth one. He's okay. An icon. He's a legend. Mm-hmm. They literally have an award named after him, the Jim Nantz Award. So for college broadcasting, all the students apply. There's hundreds of kids who apply with their reels, and I think they do like first team, second team, third team honorable mention now. But when I was in school, they did a top 20. So it was intense. Okay. And the day they released that, you're like on the edge of your seat. And I was fortunate to finish in ninth my senior year, which is obviously like, I just wanted to be anywhere on the list. And the fact that I was inside the top 10 was really cool. So obviously him having his own award says enough about him. But I think we talked about long-term goals before, but my dream kind of calendar would be the Jim Nantz calendar. Golf, NFL, March Madness. Those are the sports that I think I excel in the most, and the ones I have the most fun with. And I'm fortunate to have some great tape in all of those sports. Well, not NFL, but football. But Jim Nantz is just so good and polished, and you just know when he's calling a game, it's going to be fantastic. And he's obviously worked with some great people. People have their opinions on Tony Romo, but no matter what, no matter what, it's going to be hard to not appreciate and like what Jim Nantz does.
For sure.
And he's so good.
And the honorable mention?
I was thinking of Kevin Harlan. You were in the electric debate, and in terms of electricity, he has one of the best voices in the industry.
100%.
Like, obviously, no one can control what their voice sounds like. I get criticized all the time that I sound like a third grader from those burner accounts, but they don't matter. you can't criticize Kevin Harlan's voice. It is unbelievable. And when there's a blowout and he's calling a streaker on the field or a cat on the field, that always goes viral. I think it would pick up some steam with anyone calling it, but because it's Kevin Harlan, it's going to pick up even more. And he's so good. And I obviously, you're told not to mimic any other broadcaster. You want to be yourself and create your own path. But I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, I try to approach my game similar in terms of energy to where he is, and he's so good.
I love that. You are always very energetic. I love listening to you on the call for whatever sport you have, but that's an awesome list. With football season right around the corner, we mentioned it with a couple of those broadcasters there. Any takes, any Dolphins takes or overall takes as we head into NFL or college football season that you have?
Yeah, definitely. And this isn't a secret either, being on the show. Obviously, I'm a South Florida guy, so Heat, Dolphins, Panthers, Stanley Cup champions, but admittedly, I'm not a diehard, but obviously I
Yeah.
celebrated the Stanley Cup, and I'm a Yankee fan. My dad's from New York, grew up a baseball fan. The last few years, as I've gone deeper and deeper into this business, I've kind of not lost allegiances, but the care for living and dying by every game for my teams has kind of gone down a bit because I'm
Yeah.
prioritizing so heavily getting these network jobs where hopefully one day you're calling a game and you got to be down the middle for these network jobs. If for the voice of a team, it's different. When I was with Vermont, I was living and dying by every basket. And when we lost a game, I would stay up all night and be just as devastated as the players because I cared so much about it. So if I join a team, it's one thing, but when you're working for a network, which is my goal, you can't be outwardly biased. I guess that's one thing. It's kind of you could spin zone it as I can't really get heartbroken by a team currently, which is nice. But the Dolphins, I don't know. I don't like the spot they're in. Obviously, like Tua is great and he deserves that contract, but for the big picture, I think there's just so many good AFC quarterbacks with obviously Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar. Like it's going to be hard for them to break through and go on a run in the playoffs just because of what's going on around them in the conference, and it's not going to be easy. So I'm not too optimistic, but again, I've been wrong before, so you never know.
Did you root harder or root less for the Dolphins being around Frank the Tank and Nicky Smokes more often?
Oh man, I can't compete with those guys. I did point out to Frank multiple times. You mentioned Kevin Harlan. Frank was convinced there was a Kevin Harlan curse, where anytime he called a Dolphins game, they would lose. But they were down 2 years ago. It was like 35-3 against the Ravens in week 2, and they came back and won. And I think Harlan tweeted back at Frank saying, like, what are you talking about? And then the year the Dolphins went 1-15, I think he called their one win. So that's what Frank does, though. Frank just makes up stats, but that's Frank, and Frank's electric, and he's awesome. And Nicky Smokes, he's too much for me. Obviously, he's great. Nothing against him, but I can never compete with his level of fandom. But it's good to have a fellow South Florida guy at the company.
We have the curse of the Gambino in the Wrong Side Company. One of our writers, Anthony Gambino, he's a Philly guy, and he has been to some of the biggest, most heartbreaking losses that I could even think of. I think he was at the game the Phillies got no hit in the World Series, multiple Ohio State, Michigan games over the last couple of years. Actually had an article out a couple weeks ago, the top 10 losses he's experienced in person, and they're all marquee headline games. So I can definitely appreciate latching onto a curse of any reason. We're all actually going to the Michigan game this year, and we might make it.
He's a Philly guy. Set him up with home. Max. They got a lot in common.
Oh, he's all over that. Obviously, we got to get connected to Max, but big Embiid guys over here. I'm big Sixers guy because the Bulls give me nothing to root for. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Last question we have before we wrap up. You've had such great career so far with such a bright future ahead. You have so many goals you want to attain. But for people listening, what we like to do, especially for different fields, what's your one piece of advice for anyone trying to get into broadcasting? We know you are not a 50-year vet where you've been doing this, but you had some great experience. What's someone who is in high school, college that has the interest? What's your one piece of advice?
Yeah, definitely. And this is something that I've held on to. It was actually... So what's great about Syracuse is anytime these established, incredible broadcasters come back to campus, they set some time aside to speak to the current students. And my freshman year, it was freshman year, Ian Eagle spoke to a group of us, and I remember saying, never say no to an opportunity when calling games. And I've held true to that unless it's a physical like schedule conflict. If you're available, just do it because you never know what could come out of it. And this, like, for example, obviously I was never going to say no to it, but the Corn Ferry event that Barstool did, I met, his name was Greg. He was on site and he's the executive producer of PGA Tour Live. And that's how I got all these PGA events from that Barstool event. So you never know what taking the chance on one event will do for the trajectory of your career. And obviously I've always been a golf guy, but because of that one event, I've been fortunate to get so many others the last year or so, including this coming week. So without that one event, saying yes to that event, again, never that I was going to say no, but just goes to show you, you never know what the domino effect can be on doing one little thing that you've never done before. Could be.
I love that. Take risks, say yes. That's amazing. Jake, thank you for a great interview. Our first white whale in Wrong Side history. Best of luck. Best of luck moving forward. Hope to see you around future Barstool streams and just around in general. But thanks again for an awesome interview. And we'll now kick it to ourselves for our ad read and our clutch moment of the week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Our clutch moment of the week is coming to you from Shore Metals, serving Southern California since 1970. Big enough to serve you and small enough to know you. See Stan, he'll help you out. Michael,
Clutch
who you
moment
got?
of the week, the Patriot himself. Justice for Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid dominates in the semifinal game against Serbia and takes it to Nikola Jokic. Probably, I'd argue to say one of his biggest games against Joel. I know he had a 40-point game in the regular season once against him, but this one felt on the biggest stage. Joel Embiid got past the second round. Awesome moment for him. I was super excited. He played phenomenal. Outside of his rebounding at times, I felt like he missed a couple of rebounds. That did scare me, but offensively was great.
Yes.
Got some fouls on Jokic, played well in the paint, had a great dunk, looked awesome. It was a great moment for him. Obviously, coming with all the slander he gets, the nation, as I said earlier, came together to root for USA, but I sure as hell did not expect the nation to rally behind Joel Embiid like they did. Everybody came out in support. People were dogging on Joel, saying Jokic still played better. They dogged on those tweets. They dogged on those accounts saying Jokic was better. Joel outplayed him. Justice for Joel. Justice for Philly. I will say Trey Turner and Joel Embiid.
Yes.
Philly for them. Fuck the Eagles still, but still justice for Joel Embiid and good for them. Awesome. We don't get to, like you said earlier, we don't get to them with Steph. We don't get to that final without Joel either. So Joel Embiid is my clutch moment of the week.
Yep.
How about yours?
Love that. Love that for Joe. Mine goes out to Austin Booker. Obviously, Caleb Williams is getting all the headlines. He did look really good. Very impressed with his preseason debut. But another rookie that won't get talked about as much because of all the hype with Caleb Williams, Austin Booker, defensive end. We've been looking for someone to pair next to Montez Sweat. The defense was looking dangerous when we brought him in last year. And Austin Booker could potentially be the answer. Ended the preseason game with 4 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 2 TFLs. So an absolutely dominating performance. Preseason game, so again, we're not overreacting, but if the monsters of the Midway are back, can help the rookie quarterback out, that will be amazing. So
shout out Austin, shout out Joel. Now to Outside the Line. Now finishing up with Outside the Line. First up, Tone Deaf Person of the Week. Joey, who do you have?
Noah Lyles, the commie bastard. That was a little strong. It's a little strong. But I'm going to rock with it. So everybody knows the quote from a couple of years ago, world champions of what? World champions of the world as of now, gold medal. So back in the day, I don't know exactly when this was from, but a tweet, Noah Lyles, sponsored by Adidas. Anthony Edwards has a shoe with Adidas, sponsored by Adidas, is also the best athlete of all time and my personal GOAT. I'll pour honey on you, GOAT. Noah Lyles was invited to an Anthony Edwards event. This year was really Anthony Edwards coming out party. And Noah Lyles said, "You want me to do what? You want to invite me to an event for a man who has not even been to an NBA Finals in a sport that you don't even care about, and you're giving him a shoe? No disrespect. The man is an amazing athlete. He's having a heck of a year. I love that they saw you could give him a shoe, but how could you not see that for me? So Noah Lyles continues to be selfish, not see greatness in Anthony Edwards, and just being tone deaf. I think that is completely unnecessary. I'm really glad that the basketball team got to stick it to him. So Noah
What makes
Lyles,
no
tone
sense to me
deaf.
about all that is that Nike is so pro working together. New Balance is so pro working together. I don't know if you've seen that commercial for New Balance. It's like fairly recent in the last year, I'd say. But it's all the athletes for New Balance. It's Cameron Brink. It's Tobias Harris.
Yeah,
It's
there's so
Shohei
many.
Ohtani. It's Coco, I think, is also has something with them. So there's huge athletes all working together. It's awesome. Nike, they have all these commercials for winning isn't for everyone with Shakari and LeBron and the women's team
Yeah.
and Kobe. And everybody's always working together trying to work the brand. Sabrina, even for Nike. And to say
Yep.
something like that is so stupid. I don't really fuck with that. I don't know why you would. If you
He also had COVID for like
COVID for
2
2 days,
days.
and what's crazy is I don't want to
I don't
say
want
anything. Obviously,
vaccinated.
oh, oh, but he did have COVID after he got the bronze. But I'm sorry, I will believe that he had COVID, whatever. But coming out and doing a full on dance and celebration before the race started, I don't know if you saw that, but he basically ran out of the tunnel,
I
hyped
did,
the
yes.
crowd up, let's go, running around before he got to his spot. Pretty exciting for the
Yep.
way you have COVID, and then he was COVID free a day after. But vaccinated, I don't.
He did
He
win the
won the 100,
100,
lost the
right?
200, but he was done after that.
100, that was the
And
200.
he
Okay.
had
He's a
yeah,
champion. He's a
champion,
champion.
102 fever. But no, Lyles, just shut your mouth, bro. Just shut your mouth.
He's weird. He's
My
weird.
two, one's a funny one, one's a serious one that affects me. First one that's funny is tone deaf people who don't understand sarcasm. I saw this on Twitter as well. I think it's pretty hysterical. And the amount of people that were upset, didn't understand it, were quite frightening. This guy tweeted, if you guys are unfamiliar, a Captain
Yes.
America movie is coming out in the near future next year. It's going to be with Sam. He's going to be leading as new Captain America. And Harrison Ford is the president/Red Hulk. D23 was going on in Anaheim this week, and this guy posted a picture and said, yet another example of Disney's woke skin color changing agenda. The Hulk is green. Real comic fans know that. Yet Disney has changed his skin color to red to promote their communist agenda. Sad. And the amount of people that didn't understand that it was sarcasm was frightening. It was truly frightening. And everyone was like, how could you say this? It's obviously a different comic book. And he was like, wait, it's a different comic book? There's only one Hulk. And people just like still getting more and more upset. The guy had to quote his own tweet saying he's losing it. Humanity, the stock of humanity is plummeting.
Every day I realize how common sense is not so common, and it's terrifying.
It's very terrifying. But
But
sarcasm, just laugh. It's okay to laugh. It's okay not to get mad at one.
just
Just
laugh.
laugh.
Just
There's
laugh.
funny things that go. Same with like comedy shows. Laugh at comedy shows. It's comedy. You're faking. Comedy shows rip on every single race, every single gender. Just relax and have a good time. My serious tone deaf, which I will have an interesting take on it, is unfortunately Jerry Jones. The quote comes out that he has no urgency to sign CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb quotes the tweet that was tweeted, LOL, removes America's team out of his bio, takes out the picture of him as a cowboy on his bio, and Micah
Micah
Parsons
Parsons
retweeted it.
retweeted LOL.
Even Des Bryant got in on them angry. He doesn't care about winning. He doesn't care. Then, so tone deaf to even say anything close to that. You cannot say that. Do not say those words. Sense of urgency. You should have a sense of urgency. I mean, talk about how great he was. 88 is a respected number in Cowboys history. Dez, CeeDee, Michael Irvin, to wear 88 is an honor in the Cowboys franchise. And he wore 88 last year and broke every franchise record in a single season. So the names I just said are incredible. He broke both those, and he's only on his first rookie contract. Jerry says he has no sense of urgency, but I will defend Jerry for half a second. I don't do this often, but I will defend him for half a second.
Oh no.
Just like everything else, the media took it out of context incorrectly. He said the question was, do you have any urgency to get it done before the preseason starts or before the preseason ends? And he said no to getting it done before the preseason. He didn't say I have no urgency to get it done. He said didn't say no urgency to ever get it done. It was just the preseason. Des Bryant apologizes and says, I misunderstood this. Social media got it wrong. I didn't read it. It's on me. Des Bryant calls it out, says it was on me. I didn't wait for the full story. He admitted to the fake outlets, saying that it was just that. So I
Okay.
will defend for
Mhm.
half a second, turning that off now.
That's fair.
Please have a fucking sense of
Okay.
urgency. You need this guy out there. Please, please get him out there.
Yeah, I don't get. I know like there's drama with Dak, there's drama with CD. I've said a couple times on this show that I think like in the next year or two, like the Bears could be an overwhelmingly better team than the Cowboys. And if I said that 2 years ago, it'd be a laughable statement. How is there no even though it was taken out of context, that's pretty fair. I don't know like why he wouldn't. CD is like top 5 in the league. Dak's probably top 5, top 8 in the league. That could be a heinous statement, but kind of is. Why hasn't it happened yet? I know like I think Dak got cleared of those court
Yep,
charges that were kind of
Dak's
lingering.
cleared.
Like what's the
Storm's waiting.
conversation here? You're seeing other people get paid and driving up the price for
Right.
these
So
guys.
the unfortunate truth is Jerry gambled last year heading into last season. He didn't extend anybody. CD, him, Micah, he didn't do any of that. So he gambled with the chance of that happening. The Cowboys go 12-5 again. CD breaks all the records. Dak is second in MVP voting, has arguably his best season of his career. And now you're stuck.
Mhm.
But still had a chance. Obviously, the playoff ended poorly, as everyone knows, but still had the chance to extend in the offseason. Once that happens, I said last week, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago, about the Patrick Mahomes contract. I think Patrick Mahomes deserves every penny he got. But when he first made that jump to that
Yep.
500 for 10-year deal, 50 million was a big jump from where they were at. I think around that time it was 45, 46, I think was the average per year for top quarterbacks. He
Yeah.
jumped it to 50 fast. Usually those happen over time. He jumped it in one contract, which then created 51, 52, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, Jordan Love, Burrow, Herbert. Everybody's gotten paid. Trevor Lawrence. So now they've gotten stuck.
Yep.
He gambled and he lost, which happens. I think, unfortunately, Dak is hated more by the star. I think that sucks. It's the truth. I sent you that stat this week. It's the best thing about preseason, and when there's no real sports on, you see crazy stats. But Dak's 2-5 in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson's 2-4. In 6 playoff games, Lamar has 9 turnovers. In 7 playoff games, Dak only has 7. Total touchdowns 18-9. Dak. Lamar's got 2 MVPs, which he's an incredible
Yep.
athlete. But Lamar gets it doesn't help that he has no weapons and this and that. But I sent you that tweet right after I showed you the original one, and they gave up 3 first downs in the second half of that Chiefs game, and Lamar didn't show up. The Cowboys defense gave up 4 extra
Yep.
touchdowns in the second half of that Packers game. They didn't step up once. They didn't even give us a chance. So it's a team loss. Wins are not a QB stat. I've always said that. But from the CD side of things, I read that the agent he has is the same agent to Jeddah's and Amon-Ra and all the other ones. So they're the same ones. But Jeddah's has gotten paid. He got big bucks. Amon-Ra's gotten paid. He's got big bucks. So now CD's the last man standing. And now, just like quarterbacks, the market has reset. I'm seeing that's 4 for 138 to 4 for 140 is what I've been reading, that what CD wants. I don't know where the Cowboys are on that.
Damn.
But he's looking for potentially $36 to $38 million a year, maybe even $40 million a year. But Jerry failed. When you can extend, he didn't, and this is the consequences you play. Like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like that's what's going to happen. So that's unfortunately the truth, and I hope they figure it out. I have this strong feeling that they might be able to contain CD and might be able to contain Micah. I worry that this is Dak Prescott's last year as a Dallas Cowboy, and people might say, "Don't worry, he'll be gone." I don't think people understand how good he really is. Like I said, he's hated by the star. I think he
Yeah.
turns in. I think when he leaves to go to wherever team he goes next, he turns into as likable as Kirk Cousins times 10. If you really think about it, Kirk Cousins has done nothing in his career. He's never won a playoff game, never done anything, and he's loved, and he just became all this money. But Dak, just like Kirk, has played the franchise tag game very, very well. He's gone to the franchise tag once. He's gone to the franchise tag twice. Now you cannot franchise tag him, so he's played the contract game very well. I saw Nick Wright say that he's going to get $65 million because that's where the market's going to be. I think that's insane to actually even think about. I would prefer he stays at that 58 to 60 mark. It just depends on if he wants to be here or not. But I would love for Dak to stay. I would love for CD and Micah to stay, and for the Joneses to wake up.
Yeah, it needs to happen. Cowboys are on the hot seat for sure. It'll be interesting to see where those guys end up. But a lot of tone deaf stuff going on. I'm sure we'll be real heated about something come football season here in the next few weeks. Wrapping it up, right side, wrong side.
Wrong side, unfortunately, as much fun as I've had meeting Big Cat and PFT. We had Jake on, a fantastic interview. I really hope you guys enjoyed that. Doing stuff, watching football, watching the Olympics. I have not played NCAA as much. That has sucked. But my real wrong side is work has kicked my ass. We filed for the quarter this week, and the work
Yeah.
just never stopped. We're going into the next section, doing interims testing. I'm super fucking busy. I'm doing 10, 12-hour days in the summer, which I didn't think that would happen in the summer. But that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's all grinding. Everyone's got to grind it out, keep going. But that's been kind of shitty. Work's been kicking my ass. I really haven't gotten much fun time outside of that. Trying to make as much free time as I have. I don't have much, just kind of doing other stuff. But work's been kicking my ass. But right side, we kind of got in touch with one of the people we were trying to interview a few weeks ago. Happened to me at breakfast, so I ran into him. He hopefully will be scheduled in for the
Yes.
next week. So that's one right side I have. And going to St. Louis this weekend to visit the one and only Megan Halloran. Gonna have a great time in the Lou. So that'll be my right side.
Maybe a recurring guest spot for
Maybe a
Megan
recurring
Halloran
guest
coming
spot
up.
as well. Yes. So the birthday girl last week, maybe a recurring guest next week. So we will see. But that's my wrong and right side. How about yourself?
Nice. Mine, right side, weddings.
Oh, yeah.
I have not been to many weddings in my life. I went to one of our fraternity brothers a couple of years ago and didn't know many people there, but still had a really good time. And went to my roommate's older sister's wedding this past weekend. Maddie was there. First time her and I have been to a wedding together. My parents were there. It was a smaller wedding, but a good group of friends there. And it was a really good time. Weddings are fun. Haven't really gotten to that point in my life yet where people are getting married. A lot of people getting engaged, not a lot getting married yet. But it was nice. It's nice dressing up. And it was a really good time. So shout out the Dominas, Molly Lamb, now Molly Domina. Wonderful ceremony, wonderful reception.
Hell
That was a
yeah.
really good time. Hell yeah. Wrong side, back to a regularly scheduled degeneracy. Hard Knocks made me real nervous. I don't like how long we spent on Matt Eberflus's makeover. He sounded like an idiot. The first thing he said was winning doesn't mean you're a winner. Losing doesn't mean you're a loser. These are professional athletes. You get paid on winning and losing games. Maybe not in Chicago because Matt Eberflus made me nervous. I was nervous when they kept him. I'm already nervous. The slip and slide drill, scary. I don't know. Someone's going to get hurt. Caleb Williams looked good in the first preseason game, but the first episode of Hard Knocks made me nervous. And football overall makes me really, really nervous. And I really need the Buckeyes to win the whole
I will
thing.
say on
That's my
wrong side for
side.
Hard Knocks, definitely was a lot of time on the haircut and the outfits and the wife talking about how good he looked. Shout out Funk, who was a yak cameo. He was in there. He's the barber for the Bears. But I will say, with the Bears and Hard Knocks, I felt like when he had that conversation with Saban, I felt like I was watching two different things.
Good
When Saban was
conversation.
talking, I was locked in. I was like on the edge of my seat, waiting to go. Like, oh my god, like I could play for Nick Saban right now.
Oh, yeah.
Versus when Eberflus was kind
Right
of
now.
talking, I was like, how is this guy in charge of this
You
team?
goofball.
Oh,
You
wrong side as
goofball.
well for Hard
Yeah.
Knocks. The kid from British Columbia who had a great rookie,
I had that too.
rookie
Yeah.
song, pulled off his pants with the American bald eagle on his Speedo, and then ended up getting hurt and cut from the team. So that's another sad wrong side for the Bears.
HBO really set his ass up. Usually it's a couple episodes in that they
It was
cut someone
sad.
in Hard Knocks. They made my boy rip his clothes off on TV, and he's gone.
Vanished.
He's unemployed now, for all I know. Gone, never to be seen again. That's tough. HBO did him wrong. But Caleb Williams looks good. My faith is still in him. For now, I'm scared. Football's fun. I need it.
Football's fun.
That's all I got.
We're almost there. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed Jake Marsh. Follow him, PMT sports commentator. Wait, no, that's wrong.
PMT Sports Biz.
I'm going to say that again. Yeah, football is almost here. We're really close. Follow Jake Marsh, PMT Sports Biz commentator. Look out for him. He's on PLL. He's on PGA. He's going to have a great career. We really hope you enjoyed our interview. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Thank you guys for listening. Follow Wrong Side Takes and have a great week.
Stay blessed.